Diego lost at the Supreme Court, thank goodness. Meaning they lost their argument, which was they didn't have to legally implement their climate plan. They didn't have to legally hit the climate target. They lost, so they will have to. And because our friends successfully challenged the SANDAG Regional Transportation Plan, again, so it applies to all 16 cities and the unincorporated areas of the county, saying that their regional plan wasn't enough, because basically their mission is just to expand freeways, right? Which again, those are the old days. Like again, my mantra, we have to do things differently than we ever have before. We're not used to it, it's gonna be hard, but we have to figure out a way to move people around the region differently than we ever have. So luckily the Supreme Court basically upheld the majority of the environmental position, and they're doing a final review over whether the 2050 executive order by Schwarzenegger has to be complied with. So sorry, but that's just getting in the weeds, but it sounds like some of you are interested. But so it's happening now. Like the law is being determined now, right, in our time, like as we speak. The good news is the courts are favoring what the environmental community is pushing for, because when you read most of these court cases, it's pretty impressive. They believe the science, again, is so grave. The impacts of public health are just so severe that, yes, the cities and the county and the state have to take action.
I know the law is really important, but also people like you talking
Yes.
and getting everybody to think about this. So you're here today, and last week John Coleman came to Oceanside to tell us that this was all a figment of your imagination. So what are you doing to shut him up? Because it always says, when he's in the paper, it always says, and he started the Weather Channel. So people think if you start the Weather Channel, you must be very smart.
I mean, it's so insulting to our world-renowned climate scientists at Scripps. I mean, they cringe when they hear his name, because he is not a scientist, so he doesn't have credentials. He shouldn't be a credible spokesperson on this issue whatsoever. Again, climate change is not about weather. It's about trends of carbon emissions in the air. But you're right, it's hard. But I do, like I said, I do presentations almost daily. I do, for sure, encounter climate deniers. There's a certain demographic that looks just like John Coleman, of who, I'm not kidding. It is usually, I mean, I don't want to totally.
I'm probably not much younger than John Coleman. It's not everybody that's old.
Oh, no, not at all. But the ones who are challenging me or who are kind of believing that denial usually do fit a certain demographic. But this is the good news. Usually in these crowds, right, you have different demographics, you have different age ranges. They don't get listened to. I believe there is a fundamental shift in people's acknowledgement that man-made climate change is real. And I witness that on the ground when I do my presentation. So usually when these guys, they get all apoplectic, really, they get angry, they leave, I have so many stories. But that almost discounts, they almost undermine themselves. So I'm like, the angrier you get, the better for me. Because, it's so emotional. It's not, it's just something they feel that it's a hoax. They don't really have any data, and they don't want to engage on in a rational conversation. They just want to emotionally say, it's all just, a left-wing conspiracy, or whatever they say. They all have kind of Fox News data about it. Well, I mean, really, I hear the same points. It's really scary, the influence of Fox News, in my opinion. But to the minority, so I guess that's my point to you. The other minority, it is what I said. I totally agree that my organization's mission is not only to be a watchdog, to make sure local governments are taking action, but also to build the support so they feel that they're doing, that we have their back. Because elected officials have thin skin. They do not like to lead, they like to follow. I'm telling you, something 15 years in politics, I've watched again and again. And so when enough people are telling them that they're doing the right thing, and that, taking action on climate change is something they want them to do, they feel, they put their shoulders back and they take action, they stand up, and they hear the John Colemans and they kind of dismiss them. Because they know there's a much larger slice of the population that thinks what they're doing is right. So yes, I'm with you on both fronts.
There's a little bit of a shift away from denying it now because they've kind of been forced to, that's not an option for them anymore. And then, but then when you look at these plans and they say 100%, they're gonna be attacking it as, is that one, achievable, and two, is it economically achievable? And that's how they're gonna fight it is, it's gonna be so astronomically costly that, when you set 100% goals, that's not a rational direction because nothing's 100%.
Well, we have responses for all of those things, data that shows just the opposite. It's actually an economic opportunity. And in fact, you're at risk economically if you don't pivot to a clean energy future. You're actually putting your region in a disadvantage, in a place where the new kids that are coming out of college are not going to want to come, or the new companies are not going to want to stay, if you're not pivoting, if you're not repurposing your communities to be more in line with what the millennials want, right? I mean, it's about thinking ahead. It's a different world. And the cities and the regions that understand that and that pivot and transform are the ones that are going to be the most attractive and the ones that are going to thrive. And the data really shows that. But I'll get through my slides, but the mechanism to get us to 100% renewable energy provides lower cost energy. And that's the beautiful part, is that the solution is also not only helping to kind of pivot the entire region to be more economically vibrant, but also keeping costs in check, which is really hard to do. We can't, status quo would do all those things. That's the irony. The only thing that will ensure that all of our costs go up, the only thing that will ensure that our economy is going to fail is if we just stand still. Truly. And so that's the beauty of kind of the clean energy economy and what it offers. But I know, so you've had your hand up.
Yes, I was wondering if anyone thought of having a water pipeline instead of the Keystone pipeline, but a water pipeline from maybe the Mississippi or the Columbia River down through California, to help the water situation.
Well, we can get into. I mean, I don't want to probably take this. We can get there. But I have a response to that. That we have local solutions that we can implement, that we are starting to implement. Number one, of course, being conservation. By the way, that is a gorgeous city hall. By the way, I don't know if anyone's seen the city of San Diego City Hall, because it's horrendous. You're never inspired walking in there. It's a horrible place to work. We had asbestos. It's been deemed an unsafe building by EPA. Yeah, it's really horrible. So I was like, oh, what would it be like to work over there? And it is beautiful with all those flowers. Of course, my first thought was, I don't know the water footprint of this place.
1,000 weight.
Oh, yeah. But it does look nice. It's kind of, But, so to get back to your point, though, so that made me think of conservation. So conservation is something we still have green lawns. I'm telling you, that is not the future. 10 years from now, you're going to see people living more like they do in Phoenix and Tucson. And native landscape is beautiful. It's just, again, a culture shift, and we'll get there, incrementally over time. Nothing, by the way, no change happens overnight, and I think that's a fear, too, of people that would just, snap our fingers and everything's just going to change and it's overwhelming and people are, it's like, I don't know how to adapt. So it doesn't work like that. But conservation and also what's called pure water, right? What the city of San Diego has successfully piloted and we're now expanding, which is that you are turning wastewater into potable water. Yep. And it's been technically, we did like 5 years of technical studies and evaluation. The state gave it finally like the huge thumbs up and said, this is the way to go, because we can't waste water anymore, meaning that we can't use water one time. We have to recycle it and we have to use it. And that's the most cost-effective way for us to move forward in terms of our water supply. There are other ways for us to diversify our water supply, but I don't know the economics specifically of that proposal, but there are other solutions that are more kind of homegrown that we need to explore first before we get to kind of the larger, kind of more dramatic potential solutions. And plus, I'm going to guess that people in the West would say, no and hell no, are you taking that water that we use? I don't know. Water rights, by the way, is like, yes, yeah. There's war. Well, there's probably going to be more wars around water in the future, but.
I don't understand why you don't just bombard us with information about how to use gray water and how to catch water. It's like you have to hunt for that information. You have to go just nuts. It should be
I totally
just so
agree.
available, it should just be bombarding us.
So, do you want, everyone to know the dirty secret?
Yes.
The dirty secret is that the water agencies is a perverse incentive for
There
them
you go.
to conserve water, because they've invested a lot of money into building out the infrastructure to not only get water delivered to us from outside the region, but also when they're like, we're building a new big desalinization plant in Carlsbad. And even this pure water is expensive. So because we're investing so much in this infrastructure, and we spend a lot, and we've made a lot of long-term agreements to keep the money, to keep importing all this water, they've borrowed money to make all that infrastructure happen. So they need people to give them money to pay off the bonds and the loans for all that infrastructure, right? So if people stop using water, they're not gonna have the money they need to pay back the bonds. It's a problem of our own making. We're all responsible. I really don't want to pinpoint. It's not like there's any one evil person or agency, because we're all water hogs. I mean, we're all Americans. We all kind of hopefully can acknowledge that. We all, we lead very privileged lives, and we all overconsume. All of them. Right? It hasn't, again, it's not a partisan issue. It's just reality being American. But that's coming back to bite us, right? And that's what I mean about we have to do things differently than we ever have, because we're going to have to learn to not use as many resources over time. I mean, again, we're used to this. These are things that are hard, because they're culturally, we're used to doing bigger and better and consuming more and more. That's just sort of, our American culture. But that's why, the Europeans and the people in Australia, Norway, they just they're like, wow, whoa. If you look at like the per capita water use in Australia, who has a similar drought situation as us, or a similar water supply situation, we have about 62 gallons per water use. In the city of San Diego, I actually don't know North County, but I guess it's about the same. Except for Rancho Santa Fe, by the way, it's the outlier, 500 gallons of water per day. I mean, it's outrageous. But they're getting so much heat, just wait. I mean, things are going to have to change for these folks up there. But in Australia, it's about 30. I mean, and there's technologies to help reduce water use, but also, you're right, the conservation message in Australia is just, and again, it's like, you feel your neighbors would look askew at you if you started watering your lawn, or, it's become culturally the right thing to do, and the norm is to conserve. So we have a long ways to go, and I like for people not to feel obviously we need to feel concerned, and it is scary what the future's going to look like, but also you have to be compassionate and understand that everything does, it does take time for us to make those shifts, right? I feel, because again, I go to planning groups where it's not like this kind of a crowd necessarily, but it's a crowd of a lot of diverse viewpoints and perspectives and lifestyles. So I think we have to be, somewhat compassionate. Change is hard for humans. But at least we're starting, we have to have more of that conversation. But so sorry, to answer your question, perverse incentive.
Well, since you said that this is a progressive crowd.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, I thought it was.
Or since we agree that this is a progressive crowd, would you be willing to go into there's a documentary called Cowspiracy, and it's about our diet,
right,
and
yes,
the perverse amount of water that we use
yes,
when we consume meat. Is that, would you like to speak about that? I'd love it if you would. But also, is that any part of your, like, Meatless Mondays part of the climate action plan?
It's a part, but it's kind of, God, meat eating is like the third rail. It's so hard, because, that is, meaning it's hard to touch. It's really hard to get people to talk about that, seriously, because it's, again, so much a part of our culture.
But this is a progressive crowd.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I'm saying that's why it's hard. No, I don't mind talking about it. I'm a vegetarian. I have been for, 20 years. So it's not, I have no problem talking about it. But I'm just saying, community-wide, it is really hard.
But that's a big, I'm not disagreeing. You were saying we have to change the dialogue?
Yes.
So so
let me finish, and I can maybe, because I know Cowspiracy has this weird angle about environmental organizations not being the lead on that. Interesting. But the climate plan itself, the inventory for the carbon emissions for each individual city, is about what gets the fossil fuels that get burned in that geographic boundary. So the agriculture costs from meat eating and dairy is accounted for in like the Central Valley or wherever we're purchasing. Whoever's the actual originator of those emissions, so they're not embedded in the city of San Diego's climate plan. They would be in the counties, right, because the county has agriculture. So those kinds of emissions and water use would be accounted for.
So if, just so that I can be clear on this, so you're saying that